Even after breaking their postseason drought, a lot of us know the Broncos were not perfect last season, and they have quite a few moves that they can make to really improve this roster to help them make a slightly deeper playoff run. And as much as fans want to see it, they're not going to be contending for a Super Bowl this year, but I think we should all be very happy, or all Broncos fans, including me, should be very happy to win a playoff game this year, and ultimately that should be the goal. I don't think we're quite going to be in our contending window, but let's go ahead and talk about three positions that the Broncos need to upgrade this offseason if they want to get to that contending window eventually and if they want to win a playoff game this upcoming season. Now, in my opinion, what the most important position for the Broncos to upgrade this offseason is going to be tight end. I believe that there's three, maybe four very good options out there, and one of them would be bringing in Michael Mayer from the Raiders. The Raiders don't really need a backup tight end right now, and I think that they could capitalize from maybe getting a mid-round draft pick for him, especially if Brock Bowers leading the charge for the Raiders tight end room. Now, one of the reasons I might not think that this would happen is just because you're trading with an interdivision rival, and I think the Raiders just might not be comfortable doing that. Also, I think maybe the Broncos would like to bring someone in, just bring in a rookie, and even though Michael Mayer's still younger, sometimes it feels better when you're drafting your guy to come play directly for your system and that you're not bringing him from another team. With that said, I think that your three other options, obviously, out of Penn State, Tyler Warren, he's pretty good pass catcher. Some people say his blocking game lacks, but it's really not all that bad. And the Broncos should really focus on getting a great receiving tight end. I think you also have Colston Loveland out there from Michigan, but picking 20, it feels like it's not often two tight ends go in the first round. So I think one of them will make it to the Broncos, but it wouldn't even surprise me if they held on for Fannin from Bowling Green in the second, third round. Seems like his stock is rising a bit, but with the Broncos having a middle of the second round pick, I do believe that they could draft him. What I think is the most likely position for them to draft, though, or where they will draft tight end, I think it's most likely gonna be the first round. I don't know if they want to use pick 20 on a Marion Hampton or a first round pick on a running back in general, which we will talk about that position in a bit. But I think that they will most likely draft tight end in the first round because I don't think two tight ends will go. Now, which one is going to make it to pick 20 for the Broncos? I think we'll have to see. It feels like Tyler Warren's kind of climbing above Colson Loveland at this point, and it feels like it's been like that for some time. So it might end up being Colson Loveland if Tyler Warren doesn't make it to pick 20. But the reason I would say that this is the most important position is just because you need to bring Bo Nix in, another receiving weapon. As good as Cortland Sutton is, I don't think it makes sense to draft a first round receiver unless Luther Burden is still there. But it feels like the receiver room is kind of backlogged. You have Marvin Mims Jr., Cortland Sutton, Troy Franklin, and Devon Vele. And with Vele being an older, only was a rookie last season, it wouldn't surprise to see them not really have him in their future plans. But with Troy Franklin and Marvin Mims Jr., it feels like you have two guys that will be battling for the receiver 2 spot. And I think that it gets really log jammed if you have Cortland Sutton, a rookie receiver, Marvin Mims Jr., and Troy Franklin all in that receiving room. So that's why I would say it's most important for them if they're going to go pick up a receiving threat to be a tight end. Also, because the Broncos had one of the worst tight end rooms last season, I think that especially makes it important. With Javonte Williams most likely done, I believe that it's time for the Broncos to bring in a new running back one. And like I said, I'm not too sure if that will be Amarian Hampton. It feels like the Broncos might actually go target one of the free agent running backs. Now, there's not a bunch of options, but it seemed like the Broncos do have interest in a free agent running back too, like Aaron Jones. I'm not too sure Aston Jeanty will be there at the 20th pick, so I've kind of written him off as the Broncos drafting him. But I do think that you need to try to solidify the running back room. Obviously, Sean Payton likes his thunder and lightning. And as of now, it feels like Jaleel McLaughlin, I believe he has 1 or 2 more years on his contract. He can be your lightning. And a lot of people kind of want Audric Esme to develop into that thunder role. But I feel like he's more of a limited use back. Not super limited, but he was a 5th round pick. And obviously running backs that are picked later can still pan out to be good. but just not too sure that we saw enough of him in his rookie year to want to make him the full-time back. Now, J.K. Dobbins could be another good free agent option out there for the Broncos, and it wouldn't surprise me if they try to target him. I am a big fan of J.K. Dobbins, and I was really happy to see his bounce back year, which is something I was actually predicting. He was very important to the Chargers season, especially to give that run game a boost. But for the running back room, I just think you need to try to solidify it, right? You need to have your Thunder, have your Lightning, but one of them needs to be the number one back. And I'm not saying it has to be really close or really far apart, but you have to know that you have your running back one and that you have a preferred option. The final position I'm going to talk about is safety. And I think Javon Holland is probably going to be your best option as it feels like he's going to make it to free agency. And I think the reason you need to upgrade safety is because your corner room is pretty decent, right? Riley Moss, Jaquan McMillan, and obviously Patrick Surtain, the Defensive Player of the Year. It's going to be good enough to get you by, but I think you need to help that safety out. Now, Brandon Jones was very good last year. I love the pickup of him, and I thought it was just great value, especially for the money. But PJ Locke is clearly not your answer on the other side of Brandon Jones, and you have to move on from him. Now, I wouldn't even be mad about them drafting a safety in the third round. And if Malachi Starks does end up in the second round, I think you definitely take him. I think that he can be very good. And I feel like he'll kind of bring in that bigger hitting energy that the Broncos secondary hasn't had because of Kareem Jackson's absence last season. But I think even if you brought in Andre Reed from the Chiefs, it feels like he's going to be a free agent this season. Also, I meant Justin Reed, not Andre Reed. That was the Texans receiver. But I think Justin Reed will be a very solid option too. He might be a little bit cheaper than Javon Holland, and you won't have to use a draft pick. But I think that here's the three options at safety. You bring in Javon Holland, probably your best option if we're going to be honest. Just the money might cost a little more, but cap space is good enough for the Broncos. Now your second option, I would say, is to draft in the second or third round. And how I feel it's going to go down, if the Broncos draft a safety in the second or third round, most likely they don't end up drafting a running back in those rounds, and the running back will come from free agency. Now, if the Broncos draft a running back in the second or third rounds, the safety is most likely going to come from free agency. So if that's the case, I think it'll end up being Javon Holland or Justin Reed, who also can lay the boom, kind of like how Kareem Jackson used to be. Must be something about former Texans safeties. But, right, Javon Holland or Justin Reed is your free agency options. Now, if you're going to go through the draft, I think you want to target Malachi Starks, especially if he's there on day 2. I think if he's there on day 2, you might even look to trading up and getting him. So that's the most important positions the Broncos need to target this season. I hope you enjoyed, and have a good one.